Honestly, I, 26 male, didn't know this woman that well when we first met through a dating site. She was 35, and according to her profile, was single, never told me she was married. We went out on a few dates for 4 months until she told me she wasn't interested anymore. I later found out it was because her husband was getting suspicious and she needed to cut her losses. But a few months after, she contacted me again and told me she was pregnant. It hadn't been that long since we slept together, and she confessed everything. Her husband still didn't know yet because she wanted to find out who the father was first. We did the prenatal paternity test and confirmed her baby is also mine. She had to tell him after that, and it was an awful show. He wanted to speak to me and called me like crazy. She got him to leave me alone after telling him I never knew about her being married. We were both lied to by her. They're apparently trying to work things out, but here's the thing. Her husband wants me completely out of the picture and is willing to adopt my baby if I terminate my parental rights. He doesn't want me in their lives at all, and this is his only condition, or he's divorcing her and taking their 2 kids. Don't know if he can actually do that, but she's begging me to do this or it'll completely break their family. Neither of them is considering that this is my child too, and I want to be in my child's life. I said I would not, and it's causing all these problems. She's called several times, telling me how badly this is hurting her family, and her kids are hurt and confused because her husband's temporarily moved out until this condition is met. She feels guilty for doing this to them, but says she wants to fix her mistakes and make their marriage work if I could just do this. Plus, to her, it's a sweet deal for me since I won't ever have to raise this baby or be responsible financially. I don't see it that way. I want to be a dad to my son, but it feels like what I want is hurting everyone else, like her kids. My close friends who know all this get I want to do right by my kid, but feel I should walk away from this messy situation, as it'll always be a part of my life if I choose to be involved. And it's possible if her husband is willing to adopt my son after birth, he'll have a good life. She's due in 2 months and I don't know what to do. Update on Am I an Idiot for Not Wanting to Sign Away My Rights? It's been a while since I posted this, and a lot has happened since then. And by a lot, I mean I finally became a dad. My son is healthy and beautiful, most beautiful baby I've ever seen. One of the best things to happen to me, honestly, despite the drama. Thank you to everyone who was helpful and encouraging in this situation. It felt good to know even what everyone else was saying. I had a right to say no to my ex's demands, and I'm not the one at fault for what happened. Several of you had suggested I talk to her about switching it around so that I could ask about getting full custody instead of being cut out if her husband had such a problem with me being around. Was a great idea, and I feel pretty stupid for not thinking about it myself. So, here's what happened. I decided to try again and contact her husband because throughout this whole time, he was refusing to speak to me. But I just wanted to see if I could get through to him as a last resort. He agreed for us to talk, and I was shocked to find out he'd actually changed his mind about accepting the baby 2 months ago before I made the post. Originally, he did have that condition that he'd only take her back and adopt my son if I wasn't in the picture, but decided he didn't want to raise another man's baby. So she lied to me about him still having this condition, and this was just her attempt to try to fix everything, even though he was planning on going through with the divorce. He was pretty mad about what she was doing too, so he was kind of on my side about it. Did get a lawyer involved and had another talk with her as well after he spoke to her pretty much saying he'd never take her back, no matter what she did at this point. That got her to see trying to keep me out wasn't going to do anything. I brought up the full custody thing to see if that was something she wanted, and she agreed. To her, there was no point in having my son full-time with this whole divorce going on, and she doesn't even have her own place. He moved back into their house with the kids, and she ended up leaving. Going through my attorney, I was able to establish paternity after my son was born, so I'd be legally recognized as his father instead of her soon-to-be ex. As of right now, he's with me full-time, but she still comes by to visit. Her life is a total mess right now with the divorce, and she's still pretty bitter towards me about it. It's not perfect, but I'm just so happy having my son in my life. Holding him for the first time, it made all the struggles worth it. It's definitely overwhelming, doing it mostly on my own, but I don't regret how things played out. So thanks for the support and advice. It really helped make a difference when I couldn't see a way out of this without feeling like I was doing something wrong. Well done and congrats. I definitely wouldn't want my child being raised by that woman. She's bitter at you, even though it's entirely her fault. Is she paying you alimony? She is paying child support, yes. I've learned not to take any blame that isn't mine to carry, so that makes it easier when she tries to act like everything happening right now is my fault. I'm so happy for you, OP. And yes, this is not your fault. I don't get how people can be so selfish and ruthless and have the audacity to blame someone else for their selfish wrongdoings. She is such an idiot. I do hope that she doesn't come to you and try to get into a relationship with you once she's left with nothing. She sounds horribly toxic. She's bitter she got caught, nothing else. My son has recently got into cooking, and he's amazing at it. Usually when he's experimenting or making food just for himself, he washed up. He started helping me out with meals, and 2 times a week now, he cooks dinner by himself. My husband has been insisting he wash his own dishes up, but I usually just wind up doing them. I don't particularly like feeling like I'm doing nothing. 4 nights ago, he set me down and said I needed to stop doing our son's chores. He made the mess, so he cleans it. He shouldn't be getting away with it. I replied that while it was true for small single-person meals, it doesn't work the same for family meals. He got huffy about it, at which point I said, "Why does he have to wash up, but I don't?" At which point he got kind of quiet. He tried excusing his behavior, but each time there was a flaw, and he basically huffed off. He came back a couple of hours later and said something along the lines of, "We have to make him realize how hard life can be," at which point I basically told him to buzz off. Here's where I may be wrong. I implemented a new rule. You have to somehow be a part of dinner in order to eat it. So, for example, my son makes dinner and I wash the dishes. Therefore, we both get to eat it. My husband was angered by this rule, and I replied telling him to put his rubber gloves on and get cleaning. So far, my son and I have made 3 amazing meals, and my hub leaves the house to go eat elsewhere. Our funds are separate, so it has no effect on me. My son thinks it's pretty cool. He's always much preferred me over his father, and this bonding time is really important to him. But family think I'm being way too harsh, agreeing that he should do more chores. I disagree, but no one seems to be on my side. So I come to you, dear people. Am I the idiot? The goal of parenting is to raise a child into a functioning adult member of society. The goal is not to treat children like slave labor, so they learn how hard life is. There was a lot of time to learn how hard life is. He needs people to model good behavior, stand up for him, and teach him basics of how to take care of himself, his belongings, and his home when he leaves. You are doing that. You had his back when his dad was being an idiot to him. You stood for fairness instead of letting someone come in and treat your son poorly, specifically because he's a child. You're not the idiot, but your husband absolutely is. You are all idiots here. You're right about your son not needing to do the dishes when doing a family meal, but your solution is really unfortunate. This part is particularly disturbing. He's always much preferred me over his father. The idea of you and your son bonding over sticking it to his father doesn't bode well for your marriage and is damaging to the father-son relationship. Now, it might well be that the father is enough damage all on his own, but you shouldn't be adding to it. You are all idiots here. You two need to sort yourselves out. Like someone else said, sounds like these issues run deeper than dinner and dishes. Your husband is showing your son that rules and being right are more important than his family. You are turning your son against your husband. All in all, dysfunctional. I'm going to decline to vote. The question to ask yourself is what results you're hoping to get by preventing your husband from eating at home. If you like the results you're getting, then keep doing what you're doing. I, 18 male, have an aunt who makes a lot of money, and she always goes big with gifts for everyone. But the thing is, she always expects us to do any favor she asks for, and if we say no, she reminds you what she got you. This has happened lots of times with me. On my birthday, she got me a hoverboard, and then every weekend after that, she'd ask me to babysit my cousins. No pay, by the way. Even once, when there was going to be a dance at school, I missed it to watch them because she made a big deal to my parents about my not appreciating what she'd done for me by not wanting to do this favor. Another time, more recently, she asked me to be her designated driver when she went out because she doesn't trust Uber drivers at night. I'm not even allowed to be driving that late. Got home at like 2 and had school the next day. And pretty much this is how it is every year for everyone. She gifts us new laptops, Apple Watches, games, or just cash. But if we don't do something, she gets mad and doesn't stop talking about it. My birthday was on Friday and she got me a freaking car. I have a learner's permit and gonna get my license soon. It's cool and everything, but I already know she's gonna expect big favors over this. And I don't know if I want to be on the hook for that. I thanked her and everything, but I'd rather get my own car. And yeah, she was so mad, like red in the face and yelling at my parents about how ungrateful I'm being, and any kid would be happy about a gift like this. And I told her I would be happy, yeah, but I already know she's going to be asking me for so many favors because that's what she does with everyone. Anyways, my parents got mad at me, and my aunt stormed out of the house. All I'm hearing now is how ungrateful I am, and I need to apologize to her. My older brother's telling me it's not a big deal, and I could just say no when she asks for favors. But everyone knows when you tell her no, she turns it into a whole drama and just makes you feel like crap for not helping her. So I'd rather avoid it by not even accepting the car. They're still saying I'm not being a very good nephew for rejecting her gifts, so I gotta ask if I'm being the idiot over this. I think you are an absolute legend, to be honest. Not the idiot at all. You have the measure of her, decided the reward wasn't worth it, and put her firmly in her box. Fair play to you. I could already see it if OP had accepted. Aunt would force them to drive her and her kids around at all times, and if OP said anything to parents, they'd reply with something like, "Oh well, she did buy it for you. It's the least you could do." And that cycle would never end. OP would resent everyone and cut contact at some point in life. You are not wrong, and clearly at only just 18, you're the most mature of the family on the way you're handling this. Hers are not gifts, but prepayments. I would not apologize for not accepting the card directly, but you can call your aunt and say thank you for the thoughtful gift, but I can't possibly accept it, and I'm looking forward to buying my own car. Okay, first off, you are not the idiot. Your aunt is a roiling cesspool of self-aggrandizement and manipulation. If the only reason she gives stuff is to expect something in return, and your parents let that crap fly, they're also the idiots here for not stopping that nonsense the second that happened. You are absolutely not in the wrong, and you are not ungrateful. Gifts should be given freely or not at all. Your aunt is a huge entitled idiot. I, 26 female, live with my partner, 27 male. His grandmother, 82, gifted him the house, and the three of us live together. She is blind, and we help her out, though she is fairly self-sufficient still. My sister has 2 children. Her husband suffers from early onset dementia and was moved into a care facility shortly before the first lockdown happened in my country. While fortunately we do have universal health care, still the combination of the cost of the care facility and not having a second wage made my sister unable to stay in their old home. I talked with my boyfriend, and as the house is quite large, we said she could temporarily stay with us, especially as it's been so hard trying to find new accommodation now. However, we do feel she's starting to outstay her welcome. The main issue is she's letting the kids run loose everywhere. You have to understand that this house is pretty big. We're letting them stay downstairs. They have a bedroom, a study, a small living room / kitchenette, a toilet, and a shower. It's essentially a small functional apartment. The floor above it has a bigger kitchen / living room / dining room, where they are also sometimes welcome for common meals. Upstairs is me and my boyfriend's room, boyfriend's grandma's room, another bathroom, and a study. Work-wise, my boyfriend currently works fully remotely, and I work part-time and part-time study, also all remotely. We both need room / space. When we are both on Zoom calls, generally one of us takes the upstairs study and one the living room on the middle floor. Grandma will often also be there. She's quite a low-maintenance person, and it's perfectly possible to work while she's listening to audiobooks on headphones or she's cooking. Yes, she still does. Now, I have told my sister that they need to stay downstairs while we're working. I think they have plenty of space. Yet the kids keep coming upstairs, for whatever reason, regularly while one of us is working. They also keep toys around, and Grandma has already stepped on them a few times, hurting herself. My sister will also do things like use things from our fridge, which would be okay, but she doesn't restock. I found out one day when I was out shopping, one of the kids had been in our bedroom, as some of my drawers had been rummaged through. My partner was also really not happy that the kids had been in our room unsupervised. To me, this was the last straw. I feel like we have been super hospitable, but she's taking over the whole house, not keeping the kids under control when we're working, and disrespecting our hospitality. I told her that this is the last warning, and that if she keeps doing this, we will ask her to leave. She was in tears, saying I was mean, that my nephew and niece are just being kids, that she can't move now, but I'm tired of it. I feel like a stranger in our home. Am I the idiot for setting this ultimatum? Not the idiot. Your sister is allowing her children to endanger the safety and health of an 82-year-old woman who was the reason you and your partner had the ability to generously offer her a place to stay. That alone is reason enough to kick her out. If my daughter could learn at toddler age not to leave toys laying around when we visited a blind friend down the street, kids who are twice or more older can learn that common decency as well. The problem is that your sister refuses to use the word no with them, and it's going to make her homeless. You are not the idiot. You are a saint for letting her stay as long as she has. I'm assuming rent-free, and she can't follow your short list of demands? I don't think it's unreasonable to ask her to not invade your personal spaces, stay in their living area during your work time, not raid your fridge unless she contributes to what goes into it. She is taking advantage of you and your kindness. Don't let her push you around. I have always said I didn't want kids of my own. However, I became very close with my niece and nephew. I babysat them. They spent weekends with me. When they were little, my brother and sister-in-law asked me to be their guardian should anything happen to them. I agreed because they are truly the only kids I see myself raising. I got married 3 years ago, and my wife felt the same as me about not having kids. She's very good to my niece and nephew. However, I never told her about what I agreed to with my brother and sister-in-law. Last year, my sister-in-law passed quite unexpectedly. It's been very hard on my brother. My wife and I have been helping him out a lot. Last week, my brother sat us down and said he was updating his own will. He got a sizable life insurance policy from sister-in-law's death, and he's putting most of it into trust for the kids. He wanted us to be in charge of the trust in the event of his passing. We agreed. Then my brother mentioned adding my wife as guardian in the will, as we never did that. My wife was confused, and I told her that before we even met, I had agreed to be the kids' guardian. She got all freaked out and started saying we agreed on no kids, this wasn't no kids, etc. This started upsetting my brother, as he was worried his kids wouldn't have anyone to raise them. We're literally the only option. I told my brother that I'd talk to my wife about it. She's pretty annoyed that I never told her this before. I told her it shouldn't matter. Would she really let these kids be orphaned if their dad died? I said my brother dying probably isn't going to happen before they're 18. She pointed out we didn't think sister-in-law would either. She basically relented and said she'd become guardian, but I'd be doing all the work with them. I called her selfish for viewing my niece and nephew as a burden. Now we're barely talking. My friend has told me that I'm being an idiot and that I can't be surprised at my wife's reaction. Upon further reflection, I wonder if he's right. Am I the idiot? Are you the idiot? Holy smokes, dude. You've been married for 3 years, and in that time you've never mentioned, oh, I'm the guardian for my brother's kids in case anything happens, to your wife? Do you even love her? If I were her, I'd be wondering what else you conveniently forgot to tell me. You are the idiot. You knew how she felt about kids, and to say it shouldn't have mattered. Really? Of course it matters to some people. I'm not saying you shouldn't have agreed to be guardian, but your wife should have had all that information, so that if she married you and you guys end up with these kids, it was a choice she knowingly made. Or maybe she wouldn't have married you if she'd known, and that should have been her choice to make. You owe her an apology, both for not telling her and for how you called her selfish and tried to play off like this was no big deal. You are the idiot. I was thinking your wife was too, but honestly, you really dropped the ball here. This is something you should have mentioned before marriage. She's right. No kids means no kids, not no kids except these particular ones that I choose to have. Lying by omission is still lying.